Hi everyone, I'm Akansha. I work at Excalidraw. Well, this is my first time in ReactConf, so I'm pretty nervous and excited. So today I'm going to talk about the first React working group, how it started, how it's been doing, and how is the journey so far. So how did I get to know about the working group? Well, Dan from the core team reached out to me regarding the launch of the first community working group, which would be focused around React 18 release. This sounded pretty exciting, and that's how I became the part of it. The goal of the working group is to prepare for a smooth and gradual adoption of all the new features in React 18 by all existing applications and libraries. Thus, to make sure that when you upgrade, the experience is very smooth. Well, let's have a look at the strategy behind the working group. Invite members across the React community to collaborate so that the core team could start collecting feedback on React 18. Keep the group small and invite only. Well, this is so that it's easier for the core team to respond to the concerns and act on the feedback raised by the working group more efficiently when the working group is small rather than opening it up to everyone. Schedule meetings with working group members. Well, this is what we call as React 18 working group hours. And any updates or any concerns regarding the release is discussed in this meeting. Host the working group publicly. Well, this is really important so that it's available for the whole community and anyone can actually go and check out what's happening in the release and keep themselves updated. Well, let's have a look at how the panel of working group looks like. It has experts who have vast experience in React, developers who have been developing applications in React, and this also helps the core team to understand the concerns when it comes to migrating the applications to React 18. Library maintainers who have been maintaining libraries in React, and this also helps the core team to understand the concerns when it comes to migrating the libraries to React 18. Educators who have been teaching React. So as you can see, the group is really diverse and the core team is trying to collect the feedback from various areas of the community, and this will really help them to plan out and execute a release in a better way. Can you have a guess of how many members are there in the working group? Well, 80 working group members. I was really excited when I saw this. And this is the whole working group we have. Can you try to spot me in there? Well, yeah, that's me. So the working group was hosted publicly on June 8, 2021, as you all might be aware of, and you can always go and check out the discussions. The working group is actually split into three main categories: announcements, where the core team shares any updates regarding the release; deep dive, as the name suggests, is basically diving in deeper into the new features of React or any internals of React. So if you are interested, you can always check out the deep dive. Question and answers, where this is where the working group participates and the core team tries to respond to the queries raised by the working group. So yeah, we have three main categories in the working group. Well, let's have a look at the core responsibilities of the working group. Providing feedback regarding the new APIs. Well, this has played a very crucial role in the React 18 release, and it has also helped the core team design and improve certain APIs. Let's have a look at a few of the APIs to get a better picture. Use Sync External Store, which is going to be part of React 18 official release. Let's have a look at the journey of this API. So, Use Mutable Source was started by Brian from the core team in Feb 2020, and this API basically helps the React components to safely and efficiently read from external mutable source and thus support concurrent rendering in the external libraries and avoid issues as steering. But there were some concerns raised regarding this API. So, Mark Erickson, the Redux maintainer, raised a concern regarding the usage of selectors in this API. Basically, if a selector function changes, useMutable source doesn't know if it's safe to reuse the previous snapshot value. And the recommended solution to fix this was to memorize all the selectors in your components with the help of use callback and use memo. Well, this might sound like a small breaking change, but it's an annoying breaking change, especially when it comes to upgrading your libraries in React 18. So this actually become a big concern But the way this was resolved is really interesting. So there was a meeting held between the React and the Redux team where this concern was deeply discussed, and the conclusion of this meeting was that this API would be reworked and renamed if needed. The selector related concerns will also be addressed, and the experience when upgrading React 18 for the library maintainers would not be hampered. So that was great. And the good news is that this API was actually redesigned and renamed. So it's now used Sync External Store and it's officially part of the React 18 release too. This was really one of the great outcomes of the collaboration with the working group. Well, let's look at the another API use ID, which is also going to be part of the React 18 official release. Let's look at the journey of this API. So Luna from the core team started working on use Wake identifier hook, which will actually help to generate unique IDs on client and server, thus to avoid hydration mismatch issues which we face right now. But there are a few concerns regarding this API. So Sebastian raised a concern regarding this API. So as you can see in the examples where tab and tab panel require dynamic IDs, well, as you know that it's a hook and you can't really use a hook inside a return statement or inside a for loop or any conditional statements. It has to be a top level function statement. So the way to support this was that you generate all the dynamic IDs right before rendering your component. And this is actually not a great experience, especially when you have a couple of components which actually needs the dynamic IDs. So yeah, this was one of the limitation of this API. Well, another limitation was that it was only limited to a single value. So for cases like aria described by or aria labeled by, which actually takes a string of IDs, this API would not support that. This was another limitation of this API that it would not support concatenating the IDs. The good news is that all of these issues are resolved and the API is also renamed to use ID and it's also part of the React 18 release. That's really amazing. You can actually now generate the dynamic IDs and also support concatenating the IDs as you can see in this example. And this is really one of the great outcomes of the collaboration with the working group. Well, what next? Helping the core team to communicate the updates the right way. Well, this is really important because when you get to know about the new updates, you want to understand how can you use this feature, where to use this feature. So better communication helps in better understanding. So let's have a look at how this is done. Well, that's me. And this was regarding the first post in the React 18 working group discussions, where the term concurrent features was introduced for the first time. So the concern was that there was an earlier experimental concurrent mode shipped, and now we are using the term concurrent features. So how is it different from the concurrent experimental mode? And why are we actually now using the term concurrent features and no more the concurrent mode? So if we can have a separate section which explains what happened to the concurrent mode. So Rick actually went ahead and actually added a separate section regarding this, and this really helps the users who are aware of this experimental concurrent mode to get them a better understanding of why we want to use the concurrent features going forward. Well, this is another case where it is regarding replacing render with the new create root API. As you all know that you can actually pass a callback to react.render method, which gets executed after your app is rendered or updated. But this callback is now removed in the React 18 release. But to achieve the same experience, what you can do is you can actually use a ref callback or a request handle callback or a set timeout. So Michael actually suggested if we can have an example to explain the same. And Rick actually went ahead and added an example regarding the ref callback in the original post and also showed a few examples here as well. So these small things really help a lot and when actually going through the updates and of course more examples always helps in better understanding, right? Well, what next? Ask anything to the core team. So each and every one of us do have few questions in their mind for which they are looking answers for. And here you are getting the answers directly from the core team, which of course helps in better understanding. So let's have a look on how this is done. So Albert actually raised a question regarding the specifics of concurrent scheduling. So as we all know that concurrent features will be part of React 18 release. But how does it internally work in React 18? How does React prioritize the updates? How does the scheduling work? And Andrew actually gave a detailed answer regarding this. So that's really great to learn about this internals in React 18. Well, yeah, that's me again. So this question was basically regarding how does React keep the browser interactive during hydration? And Dan actually gave a very detailed answer regarding how it's done in React. So it's really interesting to know all this. What next? Collaboration with the core team to prepare the libraries for React 18 upgrade. Well, this was one of the major goals of the working group so as to have a smoother experience when it comes to the migration. So let's have a look on how this is achieved. Okay, so preparing libraries for the concurrent support. Basically, there are three levels as mentioned by the core team to add the concurrent rendering to your libraries. Level 1 is just integrating React 18 so that your libraries could use concurrent features, but still your app will tier, and that's okay. Level 2 is making it right, which is adding supporting the concurrent rendering in your libraries, and your app would not tier, but your rendering might be slow, but that's okay. Level 3 is making it fast, which means that if your libraries are dependent on React state management, then this would be supported out of the box. But for external libraries, there will be some work that needs to be done. Preparing the CSS and JS libraries for concurrent support. Well, as with SSR streaming and selective hydrations, the style sheets will need to be introduced at the right place and the right time in your HTML. This thread has actually all the detailed information regarding that, how you can add the concurrent support for CSS and JS libraries. Finally, the last step is to make React simple for everyone so that it's not just limited to the people who have experience in React, but also opening it up for everyone who wants to get started with React. Let's have a look on how that is done. So yeah, this was an interesting thread started by Salvia, where she actually tried to collect all the React related concepts and explain them with the help of real life examples and analogies. So basically, ELIF for all React related concepts, and this really helps in better understanding, especially when it comes to the beginners. Well, this thread was started by Shruti, where she tried to come up with questions a beginner might ask when reading these docs, and that subtree braces was actually a good catch. So earlier in the post, it was mentioned that these features are opt-in on a subtree basis, which was later replaced with you can try out these features in smaller parts of your tree. And the latter one is way more clear, especially when it comes to the beginners. Well, this was started by Simon, where he tried to come up with analogies of thinking and teaching suspense. And this is really a great thread if you want to go through set of examples on how you can actually teach suspense to someone. So yeah, we are now approaching towards the end of the talk. So let's have a look at the takeaways. Three brand new APIs as a part of React 18 release. That is really amazing. Use Sync External Store. Use ID. We already learned about these two APIs. Use insertion effect. Well, this is to help the CSS and JS libraries and add concurrent support in those libraries. But yeah, it's really great to see these APIs as a part of collaboration with the working group. Extensive feedback and faster resolutions. Of course, like the as you saw, these APIs were redesigned and also improved, and this happened in a very short span of time. So the extensive feedback and faster resolutions really helped a lot. Better communication of all the new features, of course, so that's very clear how you can use this APIs and where to use this APIs. So yeah, this really helps. Deeper understanding of how React internally works. We have a deep dive category, so if you are interested, you can always go through that category. Making React simple for everyone, of course, so that it's not just limited to the people who have experience in React, but also opening up for everyone in general. So, what is the next step? Stay tuned for more updates. Follow the working group if you haven't yet. Thank you and hope you have a great time at React Conf.